You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you.
We're living in a very dangerous time right now, and liberalism has lost their cotton-picking mind.
The Trump folks, if they found out how we knew what we knew about the Trump staff's dealing with Russians, that they would try to compromise those sources and methods.
Nobody ever said anything about resisting Obama. They went at him on legitimate arguments.
I really do believe that much of what you saw coming out of Trump's mouth was a play from Putin's playbook.
Welcome to the Abolitionists Round Table, your all-access pass to exposing fake news, the resistance, and Barack Obama's shadow government undermining American progress. Be a part of the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your all-American hosts, Del Marsh and Phil Stargell.
And good morning. This is the Abolitionist Round Table of Michigan. This is your host, Phil Stargell. And I will be again riding the waves of the air this morning by myself, and because Del Marsh is on an assignment, and he won't be in today. As far as I know, he may be on his en route, but he was scheduled to do something else this morning, so. We will struggle on because I have in my stack of, a huge stack of stuff this morning. So, but I want to get started with what everybody is talking about today, and that is that little tin-horn madman in North Korea, Kim Jong-un, and just to say that that everybody is saying that Donald Trump is probably being non-presidential or unpresidential or whatever they want to say, because he chooses to respond in a very aggressive manner toward North Korea. I say that this type of rhetoric should have been done by guys like Bill Clinton, George Bush, Barack Obama. If so, we would not be in the mess that we're in. We are really in a bad position when a little teenager almost can stand on the same platform as someone who has been a worldwide entrepreneur, a worldwide player in economics, political debate for a number of years, and when he says that what needs to be said, people will turn around and say, well, he shouldn't do that. He should just keep quiet and carry a big stick. Well, the big stick was given to this little despot over there in North Korea by this country. And the first thing people want to say is, well, we're the only country in the world that's ever dropped an atomic bomb on anybody, and now we're telling people that they can't have it. Yeah, well, we should tell people they can't have it when we give them the technology. Yeah, we should be able to tell them that they can't have this technology because they have no experience with being in a position where they can threaten people with forcing them to do what they want because they have this technology. And we gave this technology to them. I say we, I mean the Democrat Party, the same Democrat Party that has done everything in the world to convince everybody that that they are looking out for the little guy and they are the guys that that made this technology available, and to China, to Russia, and you can trace that back starting after the Second World War, when we did drop the first atomic bomb on another nation. And that technology was in very secure hands because there were people that put that technology into place because of the right reasons, not because they want to use it to blackmail people, to force people to do what they want. And this is what, when the technology was given to the Russians, they immediately gave it to the Chinese. And the Chinese gave it to the North Koreans. But still, there were certain aspects of this technology that took people a long time to develop it to the extent that the United States has done it, to the extent that countries like England and France and a couple of other ones, Israel comes to mind. These people have this technology for deterrence, not for aggression. Kim Jong-il, the Chinese, and the Russians have always used this technology to threaten people. If you don't do what we want, we might just be crazy enough to turn this stuff loose. And they generally were pretty responsible with who they let the technology get out to, but to let it get out to the North Koreans, the Chinese made a big mistake, and now we're in a position where we can't even get these people to have an intelligent conversation. Jimmy Carter went over there and got this thing really started and got it really going because he allowed, because Bill Clinton allowed Jimmy Carter to open up discussions. Once they opened up those discussions, it was just a folly. It was just a game of who could extort the most out of who, and the North Koreans won that battle. And then he won it with the George Bush administration, and certainly with the Obama administration. These people went wild and began to enhance this technology. Bill Clinton gave certain technology to the Chinese to help them get their space programs into competitiveness where they was now able to threaten the world with their ends of the technology that we allowed them to get. They couldn't get things into orbit, but Bill Clinton allowed that technology to be sent over there with the full knowledge that the Chinese didn't have good intention. And we probably wouldn't have to be worried about North Korea today if that technology hadn't been allowed to get over into China. So, but the thing is that that's the extent of what we have allowed. And when people say that we are the only country that's ever dropped a nuclear device on another country, so therefore we shouldn't have the ability to tell people that they should not have this technology. Well, that's not any kind of argument, because first of all, we were the supposed guardians of that technology. And we allowed that technology to get out and get into the whole world because we really don't have the, when I say we, I mean political forces in this country, just don't have the stalwart determination to to keep that kind of technology to ourselves, because we believe that we are responsible for all of the ill in the world, and we don't have the authority to deny that technology around the world. And I say that that is the reason why we should never allow ourselves to be fooled by these Democrats, because they are the ones that have allowed this technology to leak out of our hands. Just want to go quickly to these phones, because I don't want to go through the upcoming break. Derek, who's on line one?
That's Joe.
Oh, okay. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm up again. As you know, I'm not normally up at this time, so
well, I'm so glad
to
you
be
decided
able
to
to
come
listen
and
to
get
you
up with us
today.
this morning.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you guys about Del not in today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wanted to talk to you about John James and Bob Young. We've got two strong black conservative Republicans running for the U.S. Senate. I mean, who would have ever thought that'd be a possibility? I was hoping John James, frankly, would wait. He had an exploratory committee. He just sent out an email, though. He's officially announced now that he is going to run. I was hoping he would wait and run in 2020, veteran against Gary Peters. And could you imagine the liberal heads exploding if we were able to get Bob Young elected over Stabenow in 2018 and John James elected in 2020 over Gary Peters, and having Michigan represented by two strong black men in the Senate?
Well, if if the education system in the country would just tell the truth about a certain few things about what the Republican Party has stood for and what most of the members today still stand for, that wouldn't be a problem, getting two strong Republican conservatives elected. But the word conservative has been diluted down so bad that the portion of the people that woke up enough to elect Donald Trump haven't taken the time to look at what is the most important thing about replacing people with the socialist mindset that the Democrat Party has representing them. What the Republican Party has always did, they've always fielded good, constitutionally minded candidates for their offices, and people have just systematically ignored it because, well, the Republicans are the party of the rich, and the Democrats are for the little guy. Oh yeah, right. And look what's happened. The rich have gotten richer, and the little guy has gotten smaller.
The Democrats are for keeping the little guy the little guy.
That's exactly right. That's exactly.
But Bob Young provides a great opportunity because he's carried a good degree of Wayne County in his judicial races to remain on the Michigan Supreme Court.
Yes.
So they have voted for him. Some Democrats have voted for him in the past to keep him on the court. He gives us a unique opportunity to reach out to others in Wayne County, and we need to carry about 28% of Wayne County in order to win the statewide races. Historical data shows that.
Well, you know what? It happened once, and it could happen again. But the way things are going, it is just nothing but a real ripe poison tree for propaganda that the Democrats can point to. So we have to be very careful to make sure that our candidates, because we got we got two good candidates running, but we have a number of candidates that are running, but we have got to make sure that we get the one that is the best suited right now for us to carry forth, and then worry about that election coming down the street. That's the whole thing of it. We've got to get a good, strong Republican conservative elected this time. And boy, I'm like you. I'm really lament the fact that we have them running against each other. This is a catastrophe waiting to happen. Looks like.
Yeah, well, only one of them could win, assuming one of them would, and I think they are the two strongest candidates. Other potential candidates may be Fred Upton. I don't see anybody really supporting him. Bob Carr from Mackinac Island, nobody really knows him. So Lena dropped out to run for the 11th seat. And I forget, there was another, Sandy Pensler, Grosse Pointe businessman. Yeah. Again, other than his money, most people don't know him. So John James and Bob Young are the two strongest candidates now. It is a shame they're running against each other, but hopefully whoever doesn't make it this time will indeed run again in 2020.
Yeah, I think that we have to turn that into the positive. Whoever wins, we've got to support him and get him elected, and then turn that energy into getting the next one in line to go at Peters, because they're both vulnerable and should be taken out this year. Oh, anyway, thanks a lot, Joe, for getting up with us this morning, and keep listening and keep calling in on Saturday morning. We love to hear from you.
When I'm up. Take care, my friend. Love you guys.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
And we are going to line 2, and that would be Bruce. Is it Bruce? Bruce from Grosse Pointe. Good morning, Bruce.
Hey, good morning, Phil. Good to talk to you again. Good to get a chance to continue our little conversation from a day or so prior. I didn't see or hear the entire UN speech that Trump gave, but what I did hear on Breitbart was absolutely, dynamite, absolutely boffo, as they say in the in show business. It's about time that we had someone in position of leadership in this country, the President of the United States, who's willing to say the things that. I think a lot of folks are thinking to themselves, but are too afraid to express because of the politically correct nature of our discourse these days.
Well, that's exactly right. The political correctness are the people that are in right now in great form with tearing down statues and monuments. And things like that. This is only for one reason, folks. That is to hide the fingerprints of the Democrat Party, so they can tell you that they weren't the party of just the most terrible rhetoric that's ever been put across. And then they put these political correct screens up to keep anybody from exposing them as the people that have been against every ethnic group in this country at one time and has demonized every ethnic group in this country. And them and their little buddies in the news media have made just political, the worst political talk that's ever been addressed to the people. Then they turn around and tell you, well, that's hate speech. Well, of course, we know what hate speech is, but they turn opposition to their terrible products and their terrible policy. They determine that opposition to that is hate speech.
Yeah, you're so right about that, Phil. And I was reading one of the articles about the speech, and by somebody from the Associated Press, and he used the words dark and overheated rhetoric and this type of thing. And the fact of the matter is, we have gone on far too long playing around with this organization, which was founded by, in part, I think, large part, by communists.
Yes.
Harry Dexter White, for one, Harry Hopkins, a couple of holdovers from FDR's administration.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right about the technology getting out because of what the Democrats were able to do. They had agents inside FDR's inner circle.
Exactly right.
And if you recall, at Yalta, when Harry Truman mentioned to Stalin that we had developed this weapon, although he didn't exactly, let the cat entirely out of the bag,
right, he
was surprised at Stalin's reaction.
Yes, he's exactly right.
Yeah, because Stalin knew that the Soviet agents had what they were doing, what information they had acquired, what intelligence they had acquired, and guess what? 2 or 3 years later, boom!
Yeah.
The Russians, the communists, the Russians, detonated their own atomic bomb,
yes,
and then it just snowballed from there. Then it was the Communist Chinese in 1949. They detonated one, and and people went, well, what the heck happened here? How did this get out so quickly? And we know now from the declassified Venona transcripts the entire story, Phil.
Yes, and it's been verified that that those agents that were accused by Tail Gunner Joe,
yep,
that he was on the right track.
Yeah, and this thing about McCarthyism, talking about smearing people with no proof or anything like that. But what you got to remember, as Ann Coulter pointed out in her book, a book about I'm trying to think which one it was, but it had an entire section on Joe McCarthy, that he was right, and history vindicated him long after he died.
Yes.
But that doesn't seem to make any difference.
No, and then we look back. Let's not forget about the suspected technology that was given to the Chinese by the Clinton administration.
Yeah, exactly, Phil. And
Democrats.
And it was doubled down. Jimmy Carter coming in and negotiating with Kim Jong-il.
Yes.
The father of Rocket Man. Which by the way, another thing I learned on Breitbart was that Donald Trump was not the first person to use the term Rocket Man. That appeared in an article in the London Economist in 2006, where they called Kim Jong-il Rocket Man.
That's exactly right. And so the thing about it is that this rhetoric, this type of rhetoric, is all right when Democrats do it or when the press does it, but when a Republican defends himself, because this guy has made a lot of really bad statements, and let's don't forget the Chinese used to do it too, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Saying things like, there was a suspected nuclear submarine that launched a missile off of our coast not long ago, and one of their generals was talking about we could turn portions of America into a boiling, molten heap, you know. And these are the kind of rhetorics that these Chinese leaders and these North Koreans and the
Iranians.
The Iranians, they use this type of rhetoric all the time, and our people just sit back and say, well, we talk softly and carry a big stick, and they never use it, and they never use the small stick that they have of sanctions. They always talk about it, but they never enforce it.
Right. Well, I know you're getting up on a hard break here, but we need to have someone, whether it's Trump or Pence or somebody, actually expose the history of the Democrat Party where this situation, where this instance, as well as all of their criminal activity, all of their racist activity, the racist past. It needs to be exposed for all of America to see.
Okay.
And people may not like to hear the truth, Phil, but the truth sometimes is hard to take.
Hang on to the callers. Hang on. We'll be right back after these messages.
Phil.
Let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring from the heights of Allegheny.
You're listening to the Abolitionists Round Table with your hosts, Del and Phil. They're exposing the left's underground resistance while leading the charge in the fight for liberty. Join the conversation at 734-822-1600.
And we are back, and I want to get right to the lines because I've held people up on this side of the break, so I'm going to let them go. Go ahead, Gary from Roseville.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Bill. Yeah, this this tin horn pathetic dictator. I still say he wants something. We're known for being pretty ridiculous as a country. You're giving millions of dollars to people that even hate our guts.
Well, you think money?
Oh yeah.
You think money? Well, you know what I would do if I was Trump? I'd ask him, if you want money, how do you want it? You want it in a lump sum? And then I'd give him a lump on his head and some more on his... So you see how he like that. I mean, that's what we did with Iran. We gave them a big lump sum of money, didn't we?
Oh, we're constantly giving especially Middle Eastern countries, they drop a bomb on us in a minute. Hate our guts. But we give them like we're trying to buy their friendship or something, or... it's the most ridiculous thing, that we give. I understand, the important ones and the ones our allies, like Israel and all that. But these pathetic, dictators and they're starving their people. I still say, this is he's not stupid. He knows that we're as a country we may away Well, I got. A few things that I did about the Jimmy Carter fiasco when he went over there. This is from one of our agendas from April 22nd of earlier this year. It says in 1994, former U.S. President Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter became the first people to cross the demilitarized zone from South Korea to North Korea. These Democrats put more emphasis on ceremony and being the first and being the first to get to them to the agreement table and all of that nonsense. And you get them to the agreement table and you do absolutely nothing to stop these people from doing what exactly Kim Jong-un and Il have done, is that put the people behind the 8 ball of blackmail to force people to give them things that they should be doing for their own people. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. It's pathetic that, just like they're trying to appease people, and they just, their people are so oppressed over there and, half-starved, and they figure, well, we can get some more money out of the United States, and play games with them.
And we ought to, and it ought to be noted, just all you have to do is just look at the pictures of these people in North Korea that you get a chance to see. Those are the ones that are eating 3 times a day and snacking probably all day in the case of Kim Jong-il. But let's not look at the horizontal part. Let's look at the vertical part. These guys are 5'4", 5'2", if they're lucky. And what about the populace of North Korea? They're supposed to be as much as 6 inches below the standard height of an American.
Oh yeah.
And so what I'm saying to you is that their growth has been stunted by the fact that they are not eating a good diet, and their diet is being sidetracked for their nuclear program, for their rocket program.
Oh yeah, sure. Just like all communist countries, people get as little as possible, and like him, the Kim Jong, he looks like he hasn't gone without a meal. I'm sure, everybody in the head of state there, they get, the best of everything.
Yeah.
The people, they're just, so oppressed. It's ridiculous.
Well, don't be a stranger, Gary, and get up with us on Saturday mornings and let your voice be heard, because there are going to be a whole lot of information that is going to be
presented on this along this line. Since we've got an agent of change in the White House, we have got to mobilize our people and get behind him and get a supporting cast so we can get something done for the people in this country that have been walked on for the last 50 years in this country.
Oh, well, for all the millions of dollars we throw away to other countries are going to hate our guts.
Right.
We could probably pay most of the national debt off.
Yeah.
The stupid stuff we do.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's get behind and let's tell people what we want and demand that they do it. Because like what we see and what we have seen, they're coming up real short in Washington. Thanks again for your call. We're going to go to line 3, and there's another Gary. Good morning, Gary.
Hey, brother. Good morning.
Good morning, Gary. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. I want to talk about nuclear proliferation.
Yeah.
These people, they're so illogical when they say that it's okay for other nation states to have nuclear weapons.
Yes.
We're the only people that ever used one.
Yeah.
Well, when an event happens, the odds are it happening again increase exponentially with each nation state that has the ability to do it. Mm-hmm. And there's one thing that I know, because the atomic weapon is the dragon. We do not want that to be used again, ever, because, in an instant, 200,000 people were incinerated, and something like 6,000 or 7,000 more died slowly over a period of time from radiation.
Right.
We do not want that weapon used again, ever, in the history of the world. So we should keep that weapon out of everybody's hands. I'm not saying that we're going to have a nuclear-free world. That will never happen again. But you keep it out of as many states as possible, at any means possible, so they don't require it in the first place. That's logic. There's no argument.
And could I just insert that the best way to keep it out of their hands is to keep the power of this government out of the hands of the Democrats. That's what we need to start at. That's the place we need to work at, so this kind of nonsense never happens again, where we know that years later that the people that were in charge were responsible for the technology leaking out and getting into the hands of people that don't have our interests in mind at all.
That's right. That's one of the things that pisses me off when I hear radio talk show hosts say things like, if the Republicans don't do what we want them to do, they're going to take a bloodbath in the next election. So we're going to put these clown boys, these evil, nasty ratbags, back in power. The Democrats should never be put back in power in the United States ever again. These people are diabolical, evil, nasty bastards. Sorry, but they are. They've done so much damage to this country over the last 100 years. Most of them should be in jail for it. And I know that sounds hyperbole, but it's true.
But and the thing about it is, they tell us, they take advantage of our documents, our founding documents. They take advantage of them. So why wouldn't people from other countries and other ideology use the same tactics? They got the blueprint. They got the master plan from the Democrat Party, how to defeat the only, not democracy, the only republic, the only Republican form of government on the face of the earth. There is no other, nowhere, except in the United States. And these people would do everything they can to end it, because this country is a nation of laws, first and foremost. And the Democrats have done everything they can to weaken and make almost non-existent that tenet of our government, that rule of law tenet.
Because if the communists understand that the fascists are taking over, and the fascists will kill the communists.
Yep. And if you don't believe that the forces in this country are fascist, then think about this. Every chance they get to get power, they make some of the worst laws that they enforce faithfully with the gun, they always tell you, oh, you shouldn't have guns. The reason why, if they ever get the guns, believe me, they will put us under the boot of tyranny immediately.
Oh, sure. It's happened many times through history. Look at Miramar. That's one of the best shining examples.
Exactly.
The fields.
Exactly. They ran it and raved and got that lady in power, and what's she doing? She's turning her back on what the real the real tyranny in that country is going to be if they get complete control of that country.
Right, and I can't imagine Maxine Waters having complete control of this country.
Yeah, you notice that she has been from the day that it was announced that Trump won the presidency. She has been on a rant to impeach him, but yet and still, people like Bill Clinton that were that done things that did rise to impeachment. She defended him, and that's what Democrats, especially black Democrats, do.
Barack Obama. I mean, he broke the law some 72 times was the last count.
Yeah.
All right, partner. You have a good day.
All right. And thanks for getting up early with us this morning. And so, one of the things that I made reference to black Democrats. They protect the legacy of the Democrat Party, and they will tell you that all of our problems stem from racism. I want to go on record as saying that that racism today and white supremacism in this country are non-existent, simply because of the laws and the sanctions that are put on people about racism. Racism today is nothing compared to what racism was in 1877, in 1890, in 1940, in 1950. That racism was a completely different thing, but it was sanctioned and put together at the behest of the Democrat Party. That's what the real story is behind the removal of these statues and monuments. They are done to replace the memory of the real racists and the real white supremacists. And I say to you, the last white supremacist in this country died and was buried with Robert Byrd of West Virginia. He was an avowed racist. He was an avowed white supremacist. His rhetoric up until the maybe last 20 years of his life verify what I say about him. He was the last racist, and they canonized this guy and made him into a saint almost, calling him the conscience of the Senate. This guy is the one that did the obstruction and made some of the laws in this country that were able to be passed. He made them weak and helped keep those laws from being passed for years before they were passed. And I want to tell you that I am on the record in saying that it is time to take these civil rights laws off the books and rely directly on constitutional law. We need to get rid of these judges that want to tell you that civil rights takes precedence over constitutional rights. The whole Jim Crow law situation was about civil rights. And what I want people to understand, you have to stop looking at the past and saying that because things happened in the past that it was because of racism, and that racism is still the same formula for racism as what they accuse people of being racist today. You can't judge people's actions today by looking at what people did in the past. And in the same token, you cannot look at the past with the eyes of the present and try to figure out what was on people's mind. Because if you look at the words of some of the people after Reconstruction and before Reconstruction, and during the aftermath of the Civil War, when people did things back then, it was for one reason. It wasn't to keep civil rights from black people, because they had constitutional rights. The government, the Republican-led government, gave the former slaves constitutional rights. The Democrats, in order to shore up their power, they gave white people in the South civil rights. It's called Jim Crow law. Those were civil rights for white people. And the only thing that happened was in 1964, when President Johnson took the same civil rights bill that was proposed and struck down, parts of it was struck down by the Supreme Court. Those same civil rights laws were proposed back in the 1870s, and Democrats did everything they could to make sure that they never passed, and they even up until the Eisenhower administration, those civil rights they never were able to pass, but Eisenhower was able to pass some civil rights in '54, and so when people tell you that that black people vote in the 90% range for Democrats because of the civil rights laws, it's a lie. The reason why, if you want to use legislation as the arc that decides what caused black people to vote in the 90% range, it is the war on poverty. That law, those civil rights and those things were put in by Lyndon Johnson in around 1964-65. The war on poverty and the benefits that came from the government is the reason why black people vote in the 90% range. Because if it wasn't, why would black people not have continued to vote Republican after Reconstruction? They tried to, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. The Democrat Party erased the fingerprint of their obstruction and their nullification of black votes in the South. They went from being the majority in some of the states as black people. They were the majority in 4 or 5 of the states. Democrats made sure that they never again voted after Reconstruction, and that Reconstruction began when Rutherford B. Hayes there was a compromise of 1877 that let him become the president, and they threw the black Americans in the South to the mercy of the Democrat Party, and they made sure that blacks didn't vote up until the civil rights era. That's when they started to vote again. And people want to tell you that the reason why black Americans vote Democrat is because of the civil rights laws in '64. That is a lie. And Democrats want to tear down these state statues and stuff like that so they can erase the real record of what their deeds were. They demonized their rhetoric was a rhetoric of demonization. The things that they said about black people, nobody should be allowed to say those kind of things. And we understand that that was what they did. And black people, when you ask them about George Wallace and people like Fathers of Arkansas, Bill Clinton's mentor, Al Gore's dad, and even I've heard people say it about Robert Byrd. They say that they had to do what they had to do in order to get elected, and black people buy it. So it is not at all appealing to me when I hear somebody say that black Americans vote Democrat. Well, let's say African Americans, so-called African Americans, vote Democrat because of the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. I say it's a lie. And I say that anybody that believes that it will believe anything. That's why the Democrat Party has been able to survive. And what they're doing right now with immigration is just a play on that same policy that they had for black people. They want to put civil rights ahead of constitutional rights and ignore the law and allow people to flood into this country so they can become Democrat voters, just like black voters vote 94% for Democrats. Look for that to happen with Hispanic voters that came into this country illegally, because they've got the high card on this. I mean, how can you deny people that are here, that are working, that are doing this and doing that? Well, they came here illegally. And what they will do is they will change the laws to accommodate that illegality. And then what we will find is that this country will change from a republic unto a democracy, because people that are voting should not be voting. They're nullifying your vote as an American. And this is what the reality of this is going to be. This is why, again, Democrats are doing everything they can to really hide their hand and what they've done. And we are allowing them to do it, and the education system in this country and the news media of this country are the ones that are perpetuating the white supremacy, the real white supremacy of the Democrat Party. Because, as I said, the Democrat Party is the party of racism and the party of white supremacy. All you have to do is look in the Wikipedia, the very easiest place to look for some research, or look at the PBS system and find out just exactly what these Democrats have done and are trying to hide their hands about. Folks, we will see you next week with more heart, and I'm going to give you some more proof that the Democrat Party is the party of white supremacy, using their own words. So tune in next week, because it's going to keep coming hard and heavy. The Abolitionist Round Table invites the Wham Talk 1600 listeners to continue the roundtable discussions by mailing correspondence to Art of Michigan, Post Office Box 135, Garden City, Michigan 48135.
Or follow Phil and Del at artofmichigan.com. You can also send emails to artofmichigan@hotmail.com. And most of all, continue to listen every Saturday and tell a friend.